Welcome everybody. Tom Matuska and Brett Wingfield here again for our Thursday afternoon live Matuska Taxidermy Supply Company. And we've got some exciting things to show you today. And I think you're all ready to go on to something new after we've kind of milked the walleye mount A to Z for I think 11 times, maybe even 12. And you're probably tired of walleyes and ready to move on. Some of this, when we're only allowed to do an hour a week, some of these projects take several weeks before we ever get them done. And it's kind of interesting because we have a monitor in front of us and we can see how we look. And so as Caitlin's getting everything ready and checking the sound and things like that, I can see myself sitting there and I kind of look a little frumpy. So, I raise myself up, my shoulders, and then also my neck's too short. So I raise my neck up and that doesn't work at all. And I got a good glimpse of my physique. Brett and I had the fortune this week to clean one of our good customers' trophy rooms.
Oh, we did.
Yes. And it took all of a couple days, and three of us. And we went over there, and I found myself on a ladder way up high between a couple caribou.
Yes.
And there's plenty of room between these caribou. I mean, a lot of room. But as I'm climbing up the ladder, I'm getting gored in my sternum, and I'm getting, another brow tine riding up the middle of my back. And I'm thinking, how can that be? Because there had to have been 2 feet between those two animals. And the first time was a little enlightening and embarrassing, but it happened several times. And these animals were spaced very,
I don't know.
They were spaced
pretty
pretty good.
close.
Anyway, I'll work on that. And one of these times you're going to tune in, you're going to go, wow, look at that guy. Maybe not.
I bet. You have to do the triathlon again.
Oh, we'll do the triathlon again. I think triathlon days are in the past. Anyway, last several weeks for walleyes, be sure any of you fish people or want to attempt fish or pick up anything that, we kind of laid down for you. Try some of the things that we showed you, and if they work for you, wonderful. And if you can implement them into your, method of mounting fish, go for it. You're welcome to any of the tips and tricks. And supplies, we're always here to help you out with supplies. We've got a lot of cool stuff. In the coming weeks, after today, maybe even next week, I think we're going to start leaking some of our really, really cool new products.
Already?
Already. Because there's just some fun stuff that we're going to have that's going to, I think, bring a lot of quality to your taxidermy work and a lot of...
Does Mandy know about this?
Yeah, this is her idea.
Yeah. It's official.
And so we're going to start showing you, I think there's some new habitat things coming up, and next week we're going to spend a couple weeks on showing you a few of the new things that we've got.
That is exciting.
That's kind of exciting. So we find ourselves in deer season, big game season.
Yep.
Always seems that early in September you got some of you people have sheep coming in, you've got archery elk coming in, antelope September, 1st October, moose in September. There's just, everything kind of has its little order in the way it comes into your taxidermy shop. And we've done this for so long, and we've done it wrong. You more, not so much as me. I have done it wrong for a long, long time, managed to get lucky, but I did learn a few things along the way, and the last several years we've kind of got a little more strategic in our mounting. Absolutely. And we've made our game head mounting, life size for that matter, also much, much, much easier. And it's with very, very simple tasks that you implement into your system that can really save your life, save you a lot of time and turn out a better product, when it comes time to mounting. Yeah. So we're going to just go over a few of these things today. And if you're doing these, great. If they sound like they'll be something you can add to your system, do it. If you have any questions, give us a call. Make sure to Text in with any of your questions. Let us know who's watching. Send us hearts and all that kind of stuff. They still do that with the little hearts coming up?
They do.
Those are the bubbles, remember?
And bubbles. Yeah, we like that. Let us know. We'll give a shout out to you and we'll read your questions and that sort of thing. So it's kind of fun to see everybody that's listening.
We've got a few people tuning in saying hi. We've got Larry Wiggins and Tammy Cusciati. We've got James Hibbert, who's tuning in from Porter, Maine.
Oh,
Lucas
wow.
Stores. Kevin Yates from Australia. We've
Good.
got Dustin Baker and Steve Von Hagen.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Hi.
I wouldn't want to be trying to pronounce some of these names.
I know.
When the Wisconsin people call in, they always have Wisconsin names. They're difficult. And Australia had an earthquake. Did you see that?
I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I think a very big one. I think a really big one.
Really? No, I have not seen
so-
that yet.
Hope
Got
everybody-
Craig Robertson here too.
Oh, well, Craig
Tom
could tell us.
and Pat Reed, all saying hi.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. There's a lot of proficient taxidermists on that list
Yes,
that
there
could
are.
probably teach us a thing or two. So we'll
Absolutely.
see. I don't know how helpful we can be. Maybe entertainment,
There you go.
you know.
Hello to Paul from New Mexico. We've got Brian and Chris and Megan and Jeremy. A whole bunch of
Goodness
people
Thank you,
saying
guys.
hi.
Thank you, guys. Well, first to start out, I'll tell you a little bit about when I started taxidermy. My biggest hope was that I would get something in. And some of you beginners are in that same situation. I remember my mother-in-law went to the doctor 80 miles away, and the doctor said, "Oh, your son-in-law's a taxidermist. I've got a weasel that I'd like to mount. Can he do a weasel?" So I am willing to charge him, now this is a long time ago, weasel forms were inexpensive, $35 to do his weasel, and I was going to travel to Algona, Iowa, 80 miles away, get the weasel, bring it back, mount it for $35 and take it back. That's the kind of businessman I started out being. And luckily he didn't do the weasel and I didn't lose any money on the weasel project. But we've done a lot of things wrong and tried to correct that along the way. So work's going to start coming in, and there's a few things that, like I said, we've done things not exactly the right way, and we've saved ourselves a lot of trouble just with our method of doing things. So the first thing, you're going to get a deer head in, and I've got to apologize, we do not have a deer head because our youth season's just started, and Minnesota archery and
Minnesota archery,
Iowa
I think,
archery
just
is
started.
going to start this
Iowa's-
weekend, maybe.
Nope, another week.
Another week?
I think the 1st of October.
So we don't have anything to cape. So we're going to paint you a visual picture for some of this as we go. But you're going to get a deer head in. For instance, it might be a goat, it might be a moose, but we're going to talk about deer today. And when it comes in the door, the first thing you want to do is check the quality of it. That's my goal. Many times when I was a beginning fledgling taxidermist, I was so excited to get it. I didn't want anything to be wrong with that deer or moose or whatever it happened to be, so I didn't check it very good so that in hopes I wouldn't find anything wrong. Customer would walk out the door and I would all of a sudden find that the hair was falling out profusely before I even touched it, you know. And many of you have found yourself in that situation. So the first thing, when the customer comes in, I like to check it for the quality. So we will take, for instance, a deer like this, you know, they'll bring it in a box, or usually I like to have customers skin it out up to the neck stub, I guess you call it. Sometimes we get the whole deer in. More than once we've laid him right on the table here and skinned the whole deer. But I like to have the customer, I always tell them, hang them by the back legs, skin them down as far as you can go over the neck, cut up the back of the front leg so you can get the cape up to about here, cut it off, we'll do the rest. They always say, how far behind the shoulders or how long do you need the cape? we like to make full shoulder mounts. That full shoulder is everything up to the front legs. That's just, we like that.
Yeah.
Some people do neck mounts. I haven't done a neck mount in a long time. And if they cut them off too short, we usually will talk them into a new cape.
Pack mount.
They look so nice. Yes, a pack mount. We haven't done that, but we probably end up doing that. So anyway, if I tell them how far to cut them off, invariably they will cut them off too short, up in here. And so what I'm going to end up doing is taking a really nice full shoulder mannequin, cut it off short, just put a board in it just to make a neck mount. So I like to cut them off. You like to cut them off where we want them, so we get the whole skin in, cut it off, and proceed with it from that way, so that we don't short ourselves. Even then, I've been known to cut my capes a little bit short, even when I do it myself, let alone customers.
I've done it too.
When the deer comes in, we like to check them for, first of all, damage, slug holes, arrow holes, things like that. If you've fixed any of these things before, you know how hard it is to cover up an arrow hole going in through the throat area. Those big broad heads, what's the diameter of some of those things now?
Oh man, couple inches.
Couple inches, I mean, that's a lot of cut hair. And if it's cut hair right here, the root of that hair is up here, and the hole has to be very, very large. Slug holes going in, exit holes going out. For some reason, people shoot for the head. We have meat hunters, we have all kinds of different hunters. But all of that stuff has to be repaired. Sometimes it can be repaired and hidden very, very well. I think we have some of our YouTube videos like that. Sometimes they're very, very problematic. And sometimes the first fix isn't your best fix. We have tore our fixes apart and fixed them more than one time just to try to make them presentable to the customer. So we check them over for things like that. We check, you know, knife cuts. When I first started, the thing to do was cut the throat and bleed them. Every deer that I got in was cut from ear to ear to bleed the deer. I finally got my customers, you know, conditioned not to do that. It's not necessary to do that. So we don't have that so much anymore. Any kind of a damage like that, point it out to your customers, because they may not know how extensive the damage is, and if you can't fix it as good as they want it, you know, it's not your fault that they shot it with a howitzer through the neck. You know, so point those things out to them and say, we have a pretty major entrance hole right here. Would you like a new cape, or I'll do my best on this. Most of the time they're going to want you to do it if it's not too serious, but do have that conversation so that when they get their deer and it's got, you know, something, you know, in the neck like this that you were not able to hide, they're not going to blame it on you. You know, that's don't want to get yourself in trouble when you can't. You're not God on some of this stuff. So check that over. Another thing we like to look at is split ears. A lot of split ears. Mule deer are notorious for big old splits in their ear. And there's nothing wrong with a split ear, but I've had customers say, oh, that's not my deer. My deer didn't have split ears. And they can go back and look at a picture and they can see, you know, the split ear. Split ears can also be fixed. That's not I mean, you can put them together also. Check for split ears, check for damage, check for antelope. I always called them fence burns, but there always seems to be some pretty substantial cuts in the leather that were scabbed over. Moose also are notorious for, I think, raking each other with their horns, fighting, lots of damage. So check that sort of thing. Then check for damage that the customer did. Make sure that he didn't cut the throat, didn't do something that's going to really lead to an inferior mount.
And finding some of that damage might help you lead the customer to an appropriate turn or ear position. If he has bad split ears, you might be able to put ears back to help him with some of that stuff.
We've done like wall pedestals turned a little more than normal just to hide damage on that side. That was a very good
offset shoulders. There's a significant amount in an offset shoulder that might help too if your customer cut a cape short. More upright deer require a little less back skin. Full sneak deer, a little longer in the back, shorter in the brisket.
As a taxidermist, you're going to have to be a kind of a crafty person, and you can lead your customers without telling them what they really need. You can make suggestions and make a light bulb go on in their head, and they'll go, oh, I never thought of that pose, or something like that. So kind of develop a little repertoire with your customer and say, man, that's a really nice deer. He's really got a strong side over here. If we showed that, and you can hide something over here by doing that. You can kind of gently lead your customers to a better mount, which is going to make you look better, which is going to get you more work in the end.
Absolutely.
Once you've checked this over and the customer thinks it's a go, I always like to get the price out in the open. I've spent a lot of time with a customer talking poses, talking this, talking damage, talking what we can do and what we want to do, only to, like 45 minutes or more, and they're telling you their story. Once you mention the price, you go, oh gosh, my wife's not going to go for that. Ah, shoot. All right, well, I'll just, take him back home and see if I can't find some money somewhere. We've had that more than once. So before you spend a lot of time that you could be working on somebody's, walleye or pheasant or turkey or elk, make sure you get the price out in the open. And then we want to fill out an invoice. This, I don't know if you can zoom in on this, Kate, I'll show them. These are the invoices that we use in the shop. And they're just single right now. We were always going to make them triplicate, but we will run them off on the copy machine is what we do. But this just has a whole lot of information on it. And for instance, it's got date received. I would write down, some of this will go along with your record book too. So information on here is going to be kind of a duplicate of your record book, which the state requires anyway. So date received, I would write down today's date. Customer's last name and first name. Fill those in. Fill these in completely too. Don't leave blanks. Day to kill. The state and the federal government requires a day to kill. Don't leave out species. Don't leave out some of this stuff. Right. We got the street. We got city, state. Now you can see I'm not writing I'm just scribbling lines so you guys think I'm writing. Daytime telephone number, cell phone number, email address if he has it, zip code, species, what it is, whitetail, full shoulder mount. Date of kill. A lot of your state and federal regulations want to know when that animal was killed, and they want to know that so that they can compare this information with the harvest tag where you cut out the little date, and someday you're going to find yourself in a position where the game warden will come through, check your antlers, look at that harvest tag, and check your invoices. We had a game warden a few years ago that would come in, and he took my record book, and you were here, took my record book, and he's only interested in deer at that visit, on his phone, took a picture, flipped the page, take a picture, flip the page, take a picture, and then we went down to we call it a vault, where we keep our antlers nice and safe, where nobody's going to walk off with them. These are very, very precious, so you're going to want to protect those with your life. We can replace a cape, but you can't replace antlers. It's a locked room is what it is. But we went down there, and then he compared all of the harvest tags with what the phone information, and it was very, very thorough. It was worked well for him. I didn't get in trouble either that time. Okay, mount description. Then you're going to want to talk to the customer about poses. This is one of the new XP upright forms. Yep. And this is like the prettiest form in the world.
Very nice. Very nice.
But this is a left turn, lots of detail in this. I can't tell them about it because it's so cool.
It's a nice one. It really is. It's got a nice offset shoulder. It gives a really nice relaxed look. It's a crowd pleaser so far amongst the people that have had a chance to put it together. We got to put this one together not too long ago, and it went together really nice.
This is nice. But anyway, you're gonna go through the catalogs and you're gonna pick out with your customer a form, or pose, or you're gonna have pictures of deer that you did, or he may even have something he ran off the internet that you can find. So basically, they're gonna come in sneaks, rights and lefts, semi-sneaks, rights and lefts, semi-uprights, left and right. Uprights left and right, wall pedestals left and right. So you got a whole bunch of different choices, and you're gonna visit with your customer, pick out what he wants. At that point, you're gonna put in here mount description. We're gonna do this. Let's do this XP upright left turn. Base description depends on what this is. It could be a fish or something, and I'm describing the base. But we could do wall habitat on this.
Yep.
You could put it on a panel. You could even turn this into a pedestal with a little creativity. Yeah. So base description, whatever he wants, write that down. Location taken. In Iowa, we have to have state, province, that sort of thing. You don't have to tell them 30 yards south of the west fence line.
County would work.
It's more generic. And I have on here hide code, and we have a hide notebook that when we take the skin off of the animal, we are going to punch a code in there, and we'll do that for you when we do a caping. We'll do a caping demo. Our caping demos that we've done previously are they're not outdated, but they're not the cool new equipment. So we'll do a new one for you. Anyway, we put a hide punch in there. Not just tags, because the tags will fall off in the tanning process often. Then, that way that punch will never, you're not going to lose it off of this hide. So I like to say this, for instance, this deer in the chronological order is going to be like 432. So we just took 432. The antlers are going to get marked 432. The cape's going to get marked 432. All 432s are going to be the antlers, the skin, goes with this invoice.
And important because sometimes in Iowa we can take more than one deer, and we may get an archery deer for an individual, and we may get a late season muzzleloader deer for the same guy. And so 432, when we pull the cape out, we know that this cape, 432, goes with those directions, which happen to be a left turn semi-upright. But 435 might be a right turn, so that's
and
important.
where that has got us before is a customer brings in a really nice deer, like you said, where they can shoot multiple deer, and we don't know he's going to bring in another one, so we don't make a real point to do that. All of a sudden he goes to Saskatchewan and he shoots another big buck and he brings it down. Now we have two, and all of a sudden late muzzleloader comes up and he shoots another one, and you can find yourself with a lot of horns and a lot of capes and scratching your head.
Yeah. They're all the same guy, but we got to make sure our directions go along with those capes.
Okay, pricing. The next thing, put your price up here, and we're not going to tell you how to price your deer this year, but from our standpoint, trying to make mannequins, we had like 4 calls 4 weeks in a row on the price of foam going up. And went up, I want to say 15 cents first week, 15 cents the second week per pound, 15 cents the third week, and the fourth week was like 15%. Now wait a minute, you mean 15 cents? No, 15% for some reason. So foam has gone up. Plywood that goes in the back. You cannot get that many backboards for deer out of a sheet of plywood. It's amazing how few you can get, and we try to plot it and plan it as careful as we can to maximize our efficiency, but the plywood in the back, plywood nearly doubled I think at one point it probably did double, and then all lumber prices made a historical decline, all except for plywood, which is kind of interesting. So plywood is still plenty high. Backboards or head blocks, you know, still plenty high on that. It's amazing. They just picked up steel the other day, and steel has doubled. You know. Now we have hurricanes ravaging the South. Anytime hurricanes hit the coast, our plywood price goes up even more. So expect a lot of increases in the products that you're buying. Some of this stuff, we're trying to pinpoint it down for this year's catalog, and it's really, really difficult. There will be a disclaimer everywhere that says price is subject to change. You know, unfortunately, we got to cover ourselves in some of this. So anyway, be careful on your prices, because you don't want to charge last year's prices, because things really, really have gone up. Tannery, if you noticed your tan hides, we know what it's like getting help for the supply company here. Think of the tanneries. You know, there's people that decided not to go back to work. Tanning is something you have to train somebody for a long, long time at. So they're struggling to get things turned out as fast as they used to with less of a staff. Same here. We're struggling to get supplies made and packed and boxed, you know, with some of our staff deciding this is a pretty fun way to be. This COVID thing worked out real good for them. Go ahead.
I did think of one thing, not to backtrack too far, but when we were talking about choosing poses, they might spend some time, most of our taxidermists know, but the guys that are on here viewing that haven't been through a hunting season yet and are just getting ready and excited, teach your customers how to choose a turn so that their turn is matching what we're getting in our catalogs or what you're ordering. And that would be, this guy looks like on your camera, he looks like he's turned to your right. This is actually a left turn deer. So make sure that you're communicating that clearly with your customers too as we're picking poses.
I always tell them, pretend you're riding him like a horse. Which way is he looking? And that seems to work pretty good. But to uneducated customers, this is a right turn because that's the way they're looking at it. And we notice that all the time when they come in and we'll say, what are you thinking of? Right turn, left turn. And they'll look at one on the wall just like that, left turn. When it's not a left turn, it's right turn. So make sure you get that black and white. That's good. Also, we like to find out where they're going to hang it in their house or trophy room or whatever, because we have done deer for people, and this deer will look exceptional, you know, over in this wall, but in that corner he's going to be looking to the side wall, and he will not look very good, and it's not going to make your taxidermy work jump out, you know, in a real attractive manner. So we try to make a little sketch of the room. Where's the main activity of the room? Where are you going to hang your deer? And it kind of helps your work look good in the end.
The clearer the directions, because you might not get to this, you might have it very clear in your mind on Thursday when you brought it in, but 10 months from now when you get your hides back from the tannery, it might be a struggle to remember, did he mean his left or the deer's left? Did it go ears back, ears forward? Very clear on that stuff.
Not my memory.
Mine.
Okay, get the price up here, get the total. In Iowa, we charge 7% sales tax. Make sure you do that. Any of you beginners, don't negate your sales tax. We had a student one time that did very, very little taxidermy work, kind of skipped the sales tax part, and they came to audit him. The amount of sales tax he should have paid was nothing. The fine was unbelievable. So watch your sales tax and make sure that you do that if it's appropriate for your state. Okay, we got a subtotal. Always get a deposit. That's the safest thing I can tell you. And when you're starting out, you don't want to offend somebody, because when you ask for a deposit, you're going to think, oh, they're going to think I don't trust him, you know, I don't want him to take the deer to somebody else, so I'm not going to ask for a deposit. It's the little bitty deer, it's the little bitty fish, it's the pheasants that the dog tore apart. That's the things that you're going to get stuck with in your showroom when the customer doesn't pick it up. And I can tell you stories for the next 10 segments of Thursday Live on not charging a deposit and how you will get stuck. Then some of these things you can't sell. We can't sell fish. We can't sell most birds. You know, at one point we were not able to sell deer antlers. There's different laws and they do change from time to time. So if you get a deposit, I want my deposit to take care of that form. I want it to take care of that tanning. I want it to take care of all the work that I put into it. So if the customer doesn't pay for it, I'm not out anything. I'm paid for my time.
Yep, absolutely.
And sometimes we'll get deer in. We have a deer that scores, oh man,
a lot.
300 Boone and Crockett
probably,
points. If I got stuck with that, I would say, oh, that's the best thing I ever got stuck with. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, and then get a deposit. Save that deposit. That deposit's what you're going to buy your parts and pay your overhead with. Balance is right here. Okay, down at the bottom, there's a place for the customer to sign. So have him sign this. And then we have a copy machine. We just lay it on the copy machine. He gets a copy of this. And what it is, and we've had to do this before, it's a legal contract between you and your customer. Here's all of his information. Here's what he agreed to. He agreed to the price, and he signed it down at the bottom. This is very, very important. Any of you with your next order we just made these up on the computer. You can make them up your own self. You tailor them to your own self. But if you would like, we can stick one in your next order, and you can have one of these just to go by. We think they're pretty. We think they're pretty thorough, and they cover all the bases. They cover all the legalities. Then, that's the invoice with the customer. Now you got the cash. Take it and run. Then the next thing we do is cape them out, right?
Yep. Yep. We got to get that hide taken care of. It's the most important part of the taxidermy process. Starts with the very first minute it sits down. So we can't get here if we don't take care of it on the front end.
Correct. And now you have to work. Now you're working against the clock as you're caping. Somebody called today and was concerned about getting a deer caped in time. They can't do it. It's already hung for 3 or 4 days, and it's at 50 degrees. That's pushing. It's making me a little nervous. They said there was an odor. They don't have time to cape it out. You will get proficient at caping a deer head, and what would you say that for us to get the cape off and get the meat out of it, are you looking at 15 minutes, 20 minutes? And if we had a pile of deer and we're really going and you're in the mode for the season, it's a 15, 20 minute job. Now, I'm not talking about turning ears, splitting lips, all that type of thing. That also that's going to take time. But get that hide off so that you can get it refrigerated, because you can't put a whole bunch of deer in a refrigerator. Another thing people like to do is they like to take their deer in, put them into the freezer, and cape them at a later date. If they come in thawed, here's my thinking on this, tell me if I'm wrong, but if they come in thawed and you put them in the freezer, they're going to start cooling, but this deer is really not going to freeze until the next day when it's really safe. Then you take it out and thaw it to cape out. You're not going to be able to cape this out for a day and a half to 2 days before it thaws enough. And that's all time that bacteria can grow in this hide, and I think it takes away from your mounting time that you really want to get creative with your deer and primp him and things like that.
And the areas you're really going to lose them are the thin areas, because it might only take 15 minutes for the ears to thaw out.
Exactly.
But you can't get the cape off for a day and a half to get to those ears.
This is going to thaw out in an hour and a half. These are going to thaw out in 20 minutes. areas like that, but this is not. So I don't like putting them in the freezer and then taking them out to work on. I would way rather stay up till midnight and get that hide off. You'll have a much happier taxidermy career if you take care of it right away. Okay, so we're going to get the cape off, and we will, when one comes in, we'll do a caping demonstration for you, or you can look back at our YouTube videos. I think we showed you more than once, a couple, 3 times maybe, caping a deer and our method of caping a deer. We showed you fleshing machines, things like that. So the ears are going to get turned inside out completely. Whether you use a commercial tannery or tan them yourself, we still turn our ears inside out. If we send them to the tannery, we'll leave our cartilage in. If we tan them ourselves, we take the cartilage out. And we'll take the cartilage out later if we send them to the tannery. My thinking is when they go to the tannery, they put them through tumblers, and sometimes the ears burst. So that's why we leave it in for the tannery, take it out for ourselves, and take it out later when it comes back. We split the eyes. There will be a big donut of meat around the eyes. You want to take that off. There will be a big old thick center septum of cartilage down the center of the nose. We take that out. We butterfly open the lips so that we can get that all salted. And we take off as much tissue, meat, fat, tissue off of that cape that we can. And we do that with a push beam, right? And a fleshing knife, or we use a fleshing machine. When we're in deer mode in the tannery, and deer are coming in, we bring one of the fleshing machines out from the tannery and we flesh them. And to flesh a freshly caped deer in the tannery takes how long to get it ready? From caping it out, 10 minutes?
Yeah, just to body flesh, yeah.
And we're not thinning, we're not really thinning it. We're basically just trying to get the tissue off. Anything that's gonna hinder our salt.
Yep.
And after we take it, whoops, wait a minute, we gotta back up. I'm sorry. This is what this whole thing's about. Before you touch the face, take a knife to the face, I'd like to take some measurements.
Yeah. And we can get ahead of ourselves, and we can get that cape off, and in a time where time's critical and you don't have time for measurements, there are ways to go around it. But man, we were talking about trying to make our careers and lives easier, and to do that, we can we found a few measurements really help. So Tom's going to draw a picture of a deer. Okay, so we've got a few strategic areas that help us out a lot to measure, and boy, we're on the clock here. That's a nice deer, real nice deer.
There's an eye. It's going to be a quickie.
Oh, there's his eye. Okay, there's his eye.
Yeah,
now we're coming around his lip line. Yep.
Anyway, I'm just you can make these if you want to. You can run them off on a copy machine or whatever, but I'm just drawing a deer from the front. You don't have to be any kind of an artist like I'm certainly not, but I can know where I want to measure.
Dustin Baker is wondering, what tannery do you prefer to use for hides?
Oh, man.
Oh, that's a loaded question. That is a loaded question. What do you think, Tom? Tanneries are a real personal relationship with your taxidermy business. There are tanneries that fit every business. The only thing I would recommend is really get some good recommendations, and make sure that you talk to your tanneries every season ahead of time so that your expectations are met and their expectations are met. Good tanneries come and go every year. Make sure that you're using a good, reputable tannery.
I have been in this business, I don't even want to say, 40 some years. And a good tannery today may be the worst tannery next year. A tannery that is nobody's heard of today might be the best thing going next year. Some of them keep their quality up year after year after year. What seems to happen is the good tanneries, word spreads, and everybody sends to those tanneries, and pretty soon the quality starts failing, and it's because they're overworked. They can't handle their workload because everybody's sending things. They don't have enough qualified help. I've seen this over and over and over and over.
And in the last few years, you touched on it earlier, people are losing labor.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know, I can only imagine how difficult it is right now for tanneries. So we have some that we've used in the past, but we've used several different ones and had, I think, we've been pretty lucky. But there are a lot of there are a lot of really good tanneries out there.
Just to give you a quick example, cleaning this trophy room.
Oh man.
Yesterday, we have a bighorn sheep.
I knew
and
you were
I
gonna say that.
distinctly remember 30 years ago, the bighorn sheep was shot in Colorado, right?
Yep, governor tag.
It was, yeah, it's like a $60,000 bighorn sheep.
Yep.
And when it came to me, a taxidermist had caped it out, or had skinned the animal, had salted it, fleshed it, salted it, put it in a cardboard box, folded it up when it was time to fold up. I got this bighorn sheep. There's nothing you can do with it. You've all seen flint dried skins. I try, open it up, I can't tell anything. I send it to the tannery. The tannery calls me and says, do you want us to wire this sheep together? And I am very confused. I say, what do you mean wire it together? They say, well, it's two pieces. It's front half and back half. No, it's not. The guy's having a life size done. He said, well, I'm here to tell you, I got a front half and a back half in this, you know. That's not even possible. I'm getting irpy and I'm going to lose my lunch because this is a $60,000 sheep that I couldn't take out of the box because it was so dried. I have no idea what I sent them, but it was the same box that came from the taxidermist. I said, yeah, wire it together. What? Yeah. I got it. They used hog rings to wire the front half and the back half together, and we sewed it together. We trimmed out all the cut hair, sewed it together. After 40 years, 30 years, it's a magnificent mount, is it not?
It is.
It's a beautiful mount.
And
we put it together. I don't know where it happened, but it went to the tannery. I thought good, and it came back in two pieces, a $60,000 bighorn governor's tag sheep.
Yep. Have a good tannery. Have a good relationship with your tannery.
So that's the kind of thing that sometimes happens. All right, so I've got a little sketch of a deer from the front,
That's
like
a big
this.
sketch.
Big sketch. Now, what we like to do is, and what we found, and we found this out kind of late in life, me, not you so much.
Oh, it's
but,
late.
But our deer, our typical deer here, would you say a large amount of our mounters are 7.5 nose to eye?
Yes.
And 7.5 nose to eye, when you order from a company, they're going to have 7, 7.25, 7.5, that sort of thing. And that's from the front corner of the eye to the tip of the nose, just like this, just like he's touching the wall. Now, what we've discovered, you might have a 7.5 inch nose to eye mannequin, and you might have measured your deer at 7.5 inch, only to find out the head that you got on your mannequin swims inside of that skin. How can that be? 7.5 is 7.5. Not really. 7.5 on a young deer can be quite narrow. For instance, I don't know what this one is. Let's take a look. This face is quite narrow to me. And I got almost 7.25 on this deer, but look at how narrow that deer is.
Yeah, that's a very young deer. Very narrow. Yep.
You can kind of, what gives me a hint of that on this study cast is look at the size of the pedicle there. Yep. That's very small. Now, this deer next year may be a much nicer deer, still a 7.5. He can go to, you know, maybe a 3-year-old, still be a 7.5, but he doesn't stay this narrow. He matures just like people mature, and they get wider in the head. So it's extremely helpful, we think, to take some width measurements.
Yep.
So go ahead and explain. You're a pretty accurate measurer. You measure and I'll write. I like to do this on my little sketch.
Okay, so if we're gonna measure this guy, a really good one is the front corners of the eyes. Those are, I would say, measure your nones. Something that you can get back to and you can refer to, and a really good one is the bone-to-bone measurement in the front corner of the eye.
And what'd you get?
I got, on this little 7.25-inch head, 3 and I'm gonna say 5/16. You don't have to be that precise if you don't want to, but that was a pretty for sure. 3 and 5/16 is a good number.
Okay, now you're gonna see when you get your mannequin and you set it up, have this, and take your mannequin, 7.5, which you ordered from the company, and just double check that. What if it's 3/4 inch wider? Or what if it's a 1/2 inch narrower? Something's not going to look like your customer's deer. And he's going to look at it and he's going to say, wow, I thought he was bigger than that. Or wow, that's really, when you start stretching things, you start doing damage to cosmetics.
You say over and over in school, and I think you picked it up from somebody, put back what you take out.
I picked that up from, I mentioned Jim Kimball a lot. Jim Kimball worked for me, and he had some different saying, like we showed you the hangers last time, the wire on the deer, that's how he did his birds. And his #1 saying was, always put back what you took out. So with measurements, that's what we do. And there's a lot of other measurements that we like to take, like, would you take some of those nose measurements are kind of important.
The nose is another one that's actually very easy to take because we have positive corners. It's real hard to take a measurement back here through the muzzle, because if you were to go forward or backward 1/8 of an inch, this might change considerably in that area. So it's hard to know exactly where to take those, but some of the areas that we do know are right here across the front of the nose.
So I do a little front there.
Yep, from corner to corner. I think that's gonna go right at 1 inch on this deer.
Got it. What else would you do?
You might do, another one that's kind of nice is a height. Might be a little bit tougher to do. Oh, you gotta draw another picture. And I'm gonna do that height right here, perpendicular at the front corner of the eye. That's gonna be to the bottom jaw, and it's gonna be right over the lacrimal crease, right there. And that one, I'm gonna give you about uh, 4.5. That's a nice one.
Just, and you can get as detailed in this as you want, but this is, we do this for lots and lots of animals, and it really, I can't tell you how helpful it is. These are just crude, as you can see, really crude drawings.
Now, what if they didn't have a nice big piece of paper?
Oh gosh, they just they go right up to Walmart and they buy themselves some
draw
paper.
it on a newspaper?
Sure.
On a paper bag? What if they wanted them more organized?
Well, where'd you get something like that? That's kind of nifty.
Well,
look at that. Maybe Caitlin can get a nice picture of that. Where do you get them?
Oh, look down there.
Oh, that's got a whole lot of measurements. They can take as many or as few as they want.
Yeah. But one of the things that we really, I shouldn't say struggle, but one thing that might be hard is to find that measurement sheet 10 months from now when it comes time to check our mannequin. Because if we have, 97 different
filing system of some sort.
A cabinet?
Yeah.
We don't have room for cabinet. if you don't have room for a cabinet, but you still want to keep all your measurements together.
Look at you, how clever you are.
That is
measurement chart. These coincidentally are by Gary Zahner. Gary, many years ago, he was so far ahead of the sculpting, echelon. Gary was a tremendous artist. These are his sketches. And I don't know how many's in here. There's got to be. Caitlin, do you know there's hundreds? 100 or more. So what you're going to do is you're going to put what it is, sex, date, age, weight, location, and the customer's name.
Yep.
Oh, you've got a mammal one. Look at that. You thought of everything.
I didn't.
Look at, we've got another one. These are spiral, so they're never going to leave this book. All you have to do is keep track of the book. Ooh, look at that. More Gary Zahner. These are sketches by Gary Zahner, and they're all the same. I don't want to give you the impression they're all different, but this is a fox, but it will work for a bear, it'll work for a wolf, it'll work for a bobcat, whatever. It's got just a whole lot of measurements which are vital to putting back in what you take out.
Yep. So from this, we could take the information that's on their record, maybe hide number and the customer's name,
sure.
write that in there, and then you would have a spiral-bound book that incidentally has plastic on the front and back. Works good on your workbench. It's not gonna you're not gonna have problems with the paper. It's kind of solvent resistant, and you can keep all of your measurements in one place and be able to refer back to them. So,
and the longer you are in this business, someday you're going to want to get creative and start making something of your own. Like you're going to want to do a competition piece or something. Look through all of your 7 1/4 inch nose to eye deer, and you can find similarities or things that aren't similar to enhance your own mannequin.
Yep. You'll notice deer from a certain area, a certain age. You'll just see patterns develop.
Well, that's way easier than my sketch.
Like your sketches.
I just went and bought a big new file for these things. It's like a 38-inch wide file.
We don't have room. we're gonna put it all into a book. But one really good example, and you mentioned the things that you learn over the years and fit. We have. Can I tell them?
Oh yeah.
You said that coming weeks. Can I tell them now?
Yep.
Okay. We have a 7.5 inch whitetail in our XP that's been really, really well received. The deer that you saw mounted behind us a little while ago was mounted on the original 7.5 inch head. That works great for this caliber of deer. He's probably a 2.5, 3.5-year-old deer. But as you mentioned, those deer tend to grow in size. And one of the things that we heard was, man, when are you going to come out with bigger heads? Bigger is here. And those you'll be seeing those in the catalog coming. But we have the CO45, still a 7.5 inch head. But if I take the 45 and show you quickly that same width measurement, I'm going to bring it down here, and that's going to be a 3 3/4 inch width. But if I show you here on the 7.5,
oh, that's
in
a
the
big
40,
difference.
That's a fair amount of difference right there. You'll see, I can move that back and forth, and you'll see how much difference. But come over here, and that's our width. So 2 7.5s is great, but what happens when we get a really big one? The guys have 3 of them now.
We do get some big trophy bucks that are 7.5, and they look proportional. They look good.
Could be regional. Could be. I know some of those big South Dakota deer. We very rarely see a 7 3/4 inch face out there. But this deer here is bigger yet, and this one is going to be, I believe, 3 7/8, pushing almost 4 inches of width. So 3 heads in the 7.5s, and they will be included on the mannequins as the neck size goes up proportionately. I think the big 7 and 3 or 7.5 is going to be on a 21 by 23. You'll see the smaller face on a 19 by 21, and the guys have done a really good job of fitting those faces in as the
and this
neck sizes
does
go up.
this might sound confusing to some of you. You don't have to be real concerned with head. If you get like you're saying, 7.5 inch, 18 inch deer, for our Midwestern deer here, Eastern deer, you might find something a little bit different. But for our, 8-state area, kind of in the Midwest, you're going to find that 7.5, 18 inch deer is pretty, I don't want to say standard, but you're going to see most of them fall into that certain width category. As that deer gets to a 20 inch neck, he's going to widen out. It's not something that you have to have a bunch of heads to put on or anything like that. The mannequins are going to come complete with the head of your choice.
Yep. And that's what's really nice. But for those of you who do have a need for maybe something that doesn't match up quite as well, we are going to carry these in change-out heads as well too. So you can order this head to fit whatever mannequin, or if you just like the look of it and you have a pose or a turn of a mannequin that you just want to upgrade and put a new head on, you can do that too.
That's amazing how many people are cutting the heads off their favorite mannequin and putting on an XP head. XP is extreme precision. They are extremely precise.
They really are, and they make a good pack mount too.
A good pack mount.
Really
what
nice
about
one.
that funny looking one over there with the big notch out? That's gonna mount goofy, won't it?
That's what happens when you didn't take that nose measurement and you're not sure. You just order one that doesn't have one. No. This is pretty exciting too. As we've seen last year, we introduced a medium whitetail nose. Happens to be on this one, fits that 7.5 inch deer, and we had some really good feedback, really good feedback. A lot of people are using it, and a lot of people said, when are you going to come out with the bigger one? And
we did.
We did.
We
finally, and I can honestly say finally, because this has been a forever. It feels like it's been in the works for a very long time. But we now have a large whitetail nose, replacement nose that you'll see in the coming weeks, and it will fit. It'll fit that XP mannequin just absolutely perfectly in the 7 3/4 inch nose.
And it will fit many of the competitors' choice.
Yes, it will.
It'll fit many of the mannequins you now use. If you, no guarantee on what you're using. We'll guarantee what we're selling you, that it'll fit, and it's going to be, some of them are going to fit perfect, some are going to have slight modifications, but we're not going to give you a combination that absolutely won't. You might buy from another company and get a nose, and if you had a selection of mediums and larges, you're probably going to be able to make one of these work.
Yep.
And you got a little template that goes over that shows them where to cut it out.
Yeah, if you want to take it off of a traditional mannequin like this, there is a little template. We've shown that a few times and might do that in the coming weeks too, how to use them. And what we have found is when you get to this big 7.5, it might be more appropriate to that large nose. So we're in the middle of, these aren't out available yet today because we're still checking which mannequins they fit. We're ramping up to get additional molds made, and production will start on these right away, but this is one of the first ones hot off the press, and we're pretty excited about it. So, yeah.
And they're so accurate. I can't tell you how accurate they are. These were molded from a freshly deceased deer. Now, that sounds easy. Oh, make a mold of it, you're good to go. No, it's not that easy. You have symmetry that's a nightmare beyond belief. You'll make a mold and have everything positioned perfectly, only to find out something didn't go quite right or has to be repaired and re-repaired and re-repaired or remolded. Once the mold is good, a prototype is made, once a prototype is made, you spent, I can't tell you how many hours making,
Yeah.
I mean, it really is a perfect piece. Yeah. These have so much detail that if I had a flashlight, I could show you, but I can see the outline of the nasal passage back here. There can't be a 1/16 of an inch of plastic back there. The color is exceptional, and for the inside of a deer's nose, something that I've always liked to show customers when they pick up their deer mount is take a flashlight and show the light, shine the light to the side, and with that translucent flesh-colored septum in there, which is the exact shape of the real deer's septum, and you show it to your customers, and they run right home, show their wife, get a flashlight, honey. You know, they shine a flashlight back there, and then they call their neighbor, and then they call, all their hunting buddies, because they want to show off what they got with their deer. Does yours look like that? Theirs probably has a bunched up ball of skin in there, and it's really fun because we've had a lot of fun with the accuracy of that.
Yeah, they are. They're very easy to use. They've really helped us. Not that we're lazy, but we like to work efficiently. They have improved the speed of our whitetail work quite a bit. So kind of fun. And we will have more and more information on those in the coming weeks, as well as a lot of new products. Mandy is hard at work showing us new products every day, it feels like. But no, she's got some really fun and exciting stuff coming up in the next few weeks for you to maybe take a peek at before the catalog comes out.
And we have a giveaway, right?
We do. It is going to be our game head measurement chart.
This is a good gift. This is a biggie.
That's a good one. That is going to go to Sally Wanchern.
Sally,
oh, wow.
I hope you make good use of this. Fill it up, girl.
Yep. Lots of information there. When that book is full, they will know more about a whitetail deer or whatever game head they decide to put in there than
we have piles
imagine.
and piles and piles of loose sheets like this.
Yes,
all
we do.
Piled up, kind of. They get stacked from time to time,
yeah.
and they are in folders, and some of them are in a steel file. But man, this is the route to go.
Yeah, very, very, very handy.
Alrighty.
Thank you, everybody. Next week we'll do a little new products.